Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, To Kill the Ego is Suicide. What do I mean by that? The ego is nothing more than a sense of identity. That's all there is. Sometimes when I hear people saying that I want to kill the ego, I want to let go of the ego. You see? I want to eliminate the ego. They're not realizing that the one who is saying that is the ego itself. Because the ego is not something that we have. There's a tendency of holding on to the sense of identity, now suggesting that I have an ego. And I see people telling me, just my ego does this. It's like we're looking for some kind of guilty one or something to blame for, it's like the devil made me do it. Right? So the ego is the belief in separation. Again, the sense of identity. So right now, if you look at yourself and you're looking in the mirror, you see a body, right? Or you sense that you are this body. Well, that is what the ego is. The belief that I am a separate entity. You see? It's not that I, separate entity, has an ego. It's that I, as separate entity, am experiencing what it's like to be an ego. I am someone separate from you. That's what makes an ego. Ego is something that is separate from the source. And the way that is represented in here is through the body. I, body, I'm separate from you, body. Therefore, I, ego, I'm separate from you. And to try to kill the ego is really suicide. Is trying to kill myself. Now, how do we live in the world of appearances without an ego? Well, it's not that I, person, ego disappears. Is that I am no longer influenced by the content of the mind. You see? In other words, you look at the Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj or Jesus in the form of a person, taking the shape of a body, or anyone who you would say that they have no ego. Well, it's not that they have no ego, because the fact that they are in the shape of a body, that is an ego. You see? However, they are not influenced by the content of the mind. And therefore, that is what is meant by living without an ego. For example, right now, if I ask you, don't believe anything the mind is telling you, any thoughts, don't believe any thoughts. That's it. I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm not asking you to undo an ego or anything. I'm asking you, don't believe any thoughts. If you don't believe any thoughts, you could say that you are living without the influence of the ego. That would be the same thing as saying you're living without an ego. That's it. Because you're not believing the content of the mind. Consequently, you simply are. Now, when someone, for example, rests in contemplation with their eyes closed and everything, suggesting that they're undoing the ego, actually that is the ego, the same ego, that is now maybe tranquil, and they say, oh, I feel that the ego is gone. No, the ego is not gone. The ego is shut up. You see? So I rest, I contemplate, and it feels wonderful. Well, that's still the ego. It's the ego that is kind of quiet, is tranquil. But then, when a thought comes up that I find myself identified with and I'm very agitated, it's the very same ego that before was tranquil and now is agitated. You see? But it's the same ego because it's a sense of identity. I feel tranquil, I feel peaceful, or I feel agitated, I feel upset. You see? There's still a sense of an I. You see? So, when we try to undo the ego, we're actually feeding the very same ego. But when there's no identification with the mind, then I'm not trying to undo anything. I'm just simply being. And this is where these videos are pointing to. That's why there's nothing to do. You simply be. That's why I don't like to talk about egos, because again, that seems to fuel the idea of I have an ego, my ego. And usually when I refer to as ego, I'm just talking about any thought that is lingering in there that we're identified with, if I do talk about it. But generally speaking, I try not to use the word ego. Maybe it will come out as, I don't know, just in the moment that the word that came through. But technically speaking, I rather just simply just be. I'm not trying to undo anything. I'm not trying to get rid of anything. I'm not trying to kill anything. By being, all the distractions immediately fall by the wayside. They wither away. So right now, if you want to see what it's like to be without an ego, it's very simple. Don't believe whatever the mind is telling you right now. And if you don't believe anything the mind is telling you, any thoughts that is coming up, if you don't believe in any of them, then that implies that there's not a you who is identified with a mind that either can believe or not believe. And this is pointing to that. It's pointing to the fact that you are. Right now, you cannot say you're not. Right now, you cannot deny the fact that you are. You cannot deny this sense of existence, which is not personal, but again, I'm doing the best with the limitation of language. See? It's life. That's it. The moment the thought, I am the one who's living life, that's when the ego is born. The sense of identity. And then that sense of identity believe every single thought about that particular me. But what we're pointing to is that there's no me. All that there is what is. You see? And now the concept ego is no longer necessary because it makes no sense. You see? So again, anyone who identify with a thought that says I am this person, that is what is referred to as ego. You see? It's not that I person has an ego. So that's it. And if there's no identification with any thoughts, even though they're there and they can be used for practical reasons, but I mean somehow there's a recognition that I am. This is where this is pointing to. So I'm not saying sitting here, I don't exist, I'm not a body, I'm not talking to anyone, I'm not filming a video or something. I don't worry about any of that stuff. All I know is that I am. And this is not me that knows it, it's just the fact that it is. That's just a fact. The I am is a fact that is undeniable. The question is, I am something or I simply am. And the sense of being is closer to the fact that I am. Now, within this I am, thoughts do appear. Okay? So if I identify with the thought, I am strengthening this sense of I am with those thoughts. If I don't identify with the thought, the sense of I am as presence remains, but there's not a personal I am, so to speak. And once again, this is where the words now become limiting, and they fall short because they point to. So the only thing I can do, or I can suggest, is right now. What is right now? What is right now? What is? Don't identify with that mind. Don't try to tell me what it is. Don't give me an answer. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to describe it. No. Right now. You see? Right now, just life is. This is it. And this is what you are always. That's where you rest in always. From the moment you wake up in the morning to throughout the day and until you go to bed, you are. You cannot not be. Now just notice how the conditioning is rising up to the surface to strengthen that sense of I am with whatever concepts it might have conjured up. But that's fine. It's no big deal. We don't have to deal with that. We just have to realize that it is. We're not denying anything. We're not suppressing anything. We're not covering anything up. We're just looking. To the surface, it's going to come up all our belief system about who I am, what I am, and everything I believe about everything. And that's fine. It can be seen through. Feelings, sensations do come up, but everything just You rest in the I am. This is where this is pointing to. And resting in the I am is closer to living without an ego, even though you still have the seeming person here. So that, again, that's ego. If you call Ramana Maharshi, he says Ramana, or you call Jesus, Jesus, or you call Buddha, Buddha, and they look at you, it's because there is an ego. There's a sense of someone that is identified with that name. The only thing is that they're not really identified with that name. It's just for functioning here. That's what we need. You see, I have a seeming name that is called Nick, and you have a seeming name, and if you call me, I find myself saying, yes, what? Yeah, it's because there's still the sense of a body or someone here. But when you're not identified with the content of the mind, you still function in the world of appearances, but without the influence of the conditioning, and that's how you experience what is referred to as the peace that passes all understanding, which is more like the attitude of someone who's living without an ego, even when the fact that, or the appearance of a person, meaning ego, is in the world of appearances. You see? So I don't have to kill the ego. I don't have to undo the ego. All I have to see through it, meaning through the contents of the mind, that's all. And again, that's how you live in the world that is a projection of ego, which all here is ego, but without the mentality that is identified with a someone or a something. You see? And you live life according to the script that you're supposed to live, according to the play as it's unfolding, but you know that you know. You see what I'm getting at? So right now, again, this is very simple. It's not complicated. Don't try to let go of the ego. Don't try to undo the ego. Don't try to kill the ego. And don't blame yourself thinking you're an ego. It's very simple. If you don't believe the content of the mind, then you're resting in that which is what you are. And that is what is referred to once again as living in the world with a mind that is not of it. In other words, living without the influence of an ego, or living without an ego. But remember, the ego is simply the belief in the I am person. That's what the ego is. That's all. A new I am person does not have an ego. You simply believe that you're a person. Therefore, that is suggesting that you are believing in an ego. But while we're here, we're not going to deny that. We're not going to try to pretend that this is not happening or anything. We just see it, just being playing the role of an instrument, totally open, being, and then see how life unfolds. And all we're doing is paying attention how, because of conditioning, because of habit, there's a tendency of identify with the content of the mind, but now it can be seen, and that's the beauty of it. Now you can see it, you can see the play, you can see the game, you can see the trick. And when you find yourself that you're getting a little bit worked up or so, you know that it's because you're believing the content of the mind. And then we go back again to remembering that I am. Again, it's just a way of saying that, okay, these are thoughts, it's just, that's fine, this is what's happening in the play, but I am. And you rest in that I am. See, that's where this actually is pointing to. That's why everything points to silence. Does not mean that you will not have conversations, does not mean that you will not engage, or if the engaging happens, does not mean that you will disappear. You know, it doesn't mean any of that. It implies that now you're the witness of the play, rather than believing the content of the play. You're in a movie theater, you're looking at a movie with 3D glasses. If you're identified with the content and the interpretation of the mind, you may even think or feel that you are part of the play and the movie. But in reality, all you are is the one watching the play, watching the movie. And if you get completely lost into it, you may have someone next to you that goes, hey, what's going on? And you, oh, okay, that's right, I noticed it. Well, this is what we're doing with these videos. It's just like nudging, hey, remember, you simply are. You're resting the fact that you are. I am. See, this is it. This is where this is pointing to. Don't try to intellectualize this. Don't try to grasp it with the mind, meaning with the ego, meaning just simply be. Right now, are you not being? You see? Are you not being? You see? That's it. This is it. This is it. This is all there is. And now look how the thoughts comes up. Even the thought that said, this is crazy. What the heck am I doing here? I don't know. Is this working? You see, these are thoughts. And then now you see how thoughts appear. And they disappear. And you remain. And that is what is pointing to here when we're talking about living in the world, again, without an ego. That's what we're pointing to here. So I don't know, this is what came through. I hope it served, and as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.